Do you remember Discovery Zone? That amazing indoor playground from the 90s? If you were a kid back then, there's a good chance you spent some of your happiest days crawling through plastic tunnels, diving into ball pits, and racing your friends across obstacle courses. It was bright, loud, full of energy, and to most of us kids, it was like a mini adventure world. I was born in 1991, so I was right in the age group they were made for. I still remember begging my parents to take me there. It felt like the ultimate birthday party destination. But if you look around today, Discovery Zone is completely gone. It disappeared over 20 years ago. So what really happened to this childhood? Dreamland? Let's rewind to when it all began. The first Discovery Zone opened in 1989. At that time, the idea of large indoor play centers wasn't common. Sure, you had a few fast food playgrounds and arcades, but nothing on the scale of Discovery Zone. It was the first of its kind to combine physical activity, fun design, and kid-focused entertainment under one roof. Interestingly, the concept was born when the owner of a fitness center teamed up with a children's gym coach. They noticed kids were becoming less active and out of shape. That's when the light bulb turned on. What if there was a place where kids could play hard and get exercise without even realizing it? That idea turned into Discovery Zone. They opened their first location and it quickly took off. Parents loved that it kept their kids active, and kids loved, well, everything about it. By 1992, there were 39 Discovery Zone locations. Seeing the massive potential, a businessman named Donald Flynn bought the company. Flynn had strong ties to Blockbuster, the video rental giant of that time, and he had a plan to grow Discovery Zone fast, and grow it did. Through aggressive franchising and new corporate partnerships, Discovery Zone became one of the fastest expanding chains in the country. By 1993, Discovery Zone became a publicly traded company. On the very first day its stock hit the market, prices shot up by more than 60%. Investors were excited. Analysts praised the concept. Everything looked perfect on paper. In 1994, things got even more interesting. Blockbuster increased its stake in Discovery Zone to nearly 50%. Then Viacom, the parent company of MTV, Nickelodeon, and many others, bought Blockbuster. Suddenly, Discovery Zone was partly owned by Viacom. Imagine the possibilities. Nickelodeon. Characters at play centers, special TV promos, kid-friendly branding. They had all the tools to dominate. But that's not quite what happened. While Discovery Zone was building its empire, others took notice. Chuck E. Cheese, already a big name in the kids' entertainment space, became a major rival. But the bigger threat came from McDonald's. Yes, McDonald's. In 1991, they launched a similar concept called Leaps and Bounds, their own chain of indoor playgrounds. And just like Discovery Zone, Leaps and Bounds was rapidly expanding. Within a few years, they had nearly 50 locations. Now, the battle was on. Discovery Zone didn't want to lose ground, so they made a bold move. They bought Leaps and Bounds from McDonald's. That acquisition cost over $100 million and gave McDonald's a large share in Discovery Zone itself. That meant that in 1994, Discovery Zone was now co-owned by both Blockbuster and McDonald's. Two of the biggest brands in America were backing a kids' playground company. It seemed like nothing could stop them, but sometimes growing too quickly is more dangerous than growing too slowly. In 1994, Discovery Zone hit its peak, 347 locations across the US. That's a huge number in just 5 years, but with rapid growth came serious problems. Many of the new centers were opened without careful research. Some were too close to other Discovery Zones. Others were placed in weak markets with low demand. And then came the debt. Expansion wasn't cheap. They had to borrow heavily to keep building. Leases were signed quickly, often with poor terms. Operating costs went through the roof. Maintenance, staff, rent, marketing, and profits started to shrink. The company looked big and impressive from the outside, but behind the scenes, cracks were forming. In 1993, Discovery Zone's stock was worth over $35 a share. Just 2 years later, in 1995, it dropped to around $5. That's a massive fall. And even at that low price, no one was rushing to invest. Sales per location weren't terrible, but they weren't growing fast enough to cover the massive debt. Meanwhile, competitors were catching up. Independently owned play centers started popping up in malls and shopping centers. They were smaller, cheaper to run, and easier to maintain. In 1996, Discovery Zone filed for bankruptcy. It was a shock. The brand had been everywhere, and now it was falling apart. Still, there was hope. A private equity firm called Wellspring bought the company and tried to turn it around. They made plans, hired new management, closed unprofitable locations. But it wasn't enough. By 1999, things were worse than ever. Discovery Zone filed for bankruptcy again, this time for good. Many locations were shut down overnight. Kids showed up for birthday parties only to find locked doors and empty buildings. Parents were furious. Employees lost their jobs. Company that once promised endless fun was now just a memory. Later that year, Chuck E. Cheese stepped in and bought the remaining assets for $19 million. They converted a few Discovery Zones into their own play centers. The rest were sold off or abandoned. Just like that, Discovery Zone, once the king of kids' entertainment, was gone. So, what exactly caused the fall of Discovery Zone? There were several reasons, but let's break down the biggest ones. Overexpansion. They grew too fast. Without proper planning, the company took on locations they couldn't manage, in markets they didn't understand. Heavy debt. Expansion was funded by loans and risky financial decisions. When revenue slowed down, the debt crushed them. Bad management. With ownership constantly changing, Blockbuster, Viacom, McDonald's, private equity, there was no long-term vision. Everyone seemed more focused on making quick profits than building a stable business. Parental fatigue. Discovery Zone was fun for kids, but not always for parents. Unlike a movie or park where parents could relax, DZ required supervision. It wasn't a daycare. Many parents got tired of the hassle. Strong competition. With Chuck E. Cheese and other smaller centers offering similar experiences, Discovery Zone lost its unique edge. The market got crowded, and DZ got left behind. Looking back, it's hard not to imagine what could have been done differently. They had Nickelodeon. Why not use SpongeBob or Rugrats characters in their centers? They had McDonald's. Why not serve Happy Meals or use McPlaygrounds? Or combine Discovery Zone and Blockbuster? Let kids play while parents rented movies. None of that happened. And while there were a few small cross-promotions, nothing big was ever launched. It felt like a huge missed opportunity. Even though it's gone, Discovery Zone left behind something special. For kids of the 90s, it was more than just a place to play. It was where friendships were made, birthdays were celebrated, and imaginations ran wild. Today, you'll find YouTube videos, old commercials, and nostalgic posts remembering DZ. It lives on in memories, and maybe that's the most lasting success of all. Discovery Zone was a bold idea at the right time. It gave kids a place to be active, social, and free. But in the end, the very things that made it grow also caused its downfall. Mismanagement, debt, competition, and missed opportunities all played a role. It lasted only a decade, but what a ride it was. From 1989 to 1999, Discovery Zone gave us a colorful, exciting escape from the ordinary. And even though the buildings are gone, the fun and the nostalgia will never truly disappear. Discovery Zone was a part of childhood for millions of kids. It was fun, exciting, and unique, a place where imagination ran wild. But bad decisions, fast expansion, and changing times turned a booming business into a failed memory. Today, Discovery Zone lives only in our memories and a few YouTube videos. But its story teaches us something important. Success is not just about growing fast, it's about growing smart. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos on the rise and fall of famous brands and businesses.